What is the best loophole that you've ever found? 1. I didn't find this loophole, but my friend did. A few years back, an online store had this promotion where whoever spent the most money over a month would get free round-trip airplane tickets to anywhere in the world. My friend found that one thing you could buy on the site was a gift certificate. So he bought a $25 gift certificate and kept spending it on another $25 gift certificate. So he ended up spending $25 on round-trip tickets to Australia. 2. I used to work at Papa John's to pay my way through college. There was a contest we had where if you got someone to upsize their pizza from a medium to a large for an extra $2, you got points towards movie tickets. A large was simply $2 extra normally anyways. Anyone that ordered a large, I simply put in a medium and upsized it. I won every week. My coworkers didn't notice this obvious loophole, and it didn't cost the customer extra, so I didn't have a problem with this morally gray area. Free movie tickets every week was a huge in college. 3. Back in 2013, Papa John's had a promo for the Super Bowl where if you called the coin toss correctly, you would get a voucher for a free one-topping pizza. However, the only control in place was you could only enter the contest one time per email address. I created more than 60 emails, half of them calling heads, half tails. 8 free for 6 weeks. 4. My high school had a stupid rule that banned you from attending prom if you went to a Saturday detention that semester. I got in trouble and was assigned to Saturday detention, but my girlfriend really wanted to go to prom. I just kept skipping it and they kept adding more until they rolled it into a day of actual suspension. They had no rule barring you from prom for an out-of-school suspension, so I got a day off and took my girl to prom. 5. I can't remember when it happened, but it was years ago. I think it was Nestia, or some other canned tea, but if you bought a case of tea then there was a coupon on the box for a free case. Except it was on every case, so now you have case number 2 and another free case coupon. All the tea could be had. 6. There was a drink machine in college that was 75 cents for a juice. If you put $1 in it gave you 5 quarters and change. I got a juice every day for months before they finally fixed it. 7. I was working maintenance at McDonald's when they did a Best Buy Bucks promotion. Large sodas and large fries had a scratch off that was worth at least $1 at Best Buy. I would go through the trash daily, pulling out all the discarded scratch offs. I got a free computer that year for Christmas. I also had the poor cashier at Best Buy in tears. She had to manually scan each scratch off and verify the dollar amount. 8. Using LimeWire to download LimeWire Pro when I was in high school. What 100% fact is the hardest to believe? 1. You know when you get up too fast and feel dizzy? Squeezing your butt cheeks together stops the dizziness. 2. George Washington passed away in 1799. Dinosaurs were discovered in 1824. George Washington didn't know that dinosaurs existed or what a dinosaur was. 3. We landed on the moon before someone thought to add wheels to suitcases. 4. All of the Botox in the entire world down to the last gram is produced in a single factory in Westport, County Mayo, Ireland. 5. There are more castles in Germany than there are McDonald's in the United States. 6. A graveyard is connected to a church while a cemetery is not. 7. A single tablespoon of oil can calm about half an acre worth of water. It spreads out to form a single molecule thick layer on top of the water. This is why oil spills are so harmful and destructive. The largest one, the BP oil spill, was about 61.5 million tablespoons, or about 68,000 miles of damage. 8. The Sahara Desert used to be under the ocean, and you can still find seashells in the sand there. 9. If you put every animal on Earth in a bag and then picked one out randomly, you would have a 1 out of 5 chance in picking a beetle. 10. If a billion people from both China and India didn't exist, they would still be number 1 and 2 most populated nations in the world. 11. There is enough water in Lake Superior to cover North and South America and water 1 foot deep. 12. Every human could fit into a cubic mile. 13. There are more trees on Earth than stars in the Milky Way. Roughly by a factor of 10. 14. A moose can dive underwater down to nearly 20 feet in search of food. 15. Clouds weigh hundreds of thousands of pounds full of water and effortlessly float above our heads. With no support, no structure, just weight floating around above us and we're like, yep, totally believable because they're clouds, duh. 16. Lightning bolts can reach temperatures 5 times hotter than the surface of the sun. 17. If you laid out all of your arteries, veins and capillaries, they would measure more than 60,000 miles long. 18. A man named Michael Lotito ate an entire airplane. It took him 2 years. 19. If 2 pieces of the same type of metal touch in space, they will bond and be permanently cold welded together. 20. This will definitely wind up on a TikTok video with Subway Surfers in the background. Who's the dumbest person you've ever met? 1. I know a girl who genuinely believes that gorillas and giraffes are not real and the ones at the local zoo are just people in costumes. 2. Girl in my astronomy class said, so, if I went out into space could I like push the stars around and knock them into each other and stuff? Teacher says, no, they are incredibly massive objects. Girl responds, but they look so little. 3. This isn't close to the stupidest thing she had said, but it's the only thing I can remember. Girl in my high school admitted in class that she poured an entire jug of antifreeze on her windshield to melt the ice. 4. A friend of mine back in high school learned that only natural-born citizens can become president of the United States. Said she can't become president as she was a C-section baby. 5. I once worked with someone who asked me, if they make air conditioners, why don't they just make air shampoo? And was dead serious. 6. This girl I knew used to rewind YouTube videos so the next person wouldn't have to wait. I simply tipped my fedora and let her carry on. 7. The dumbass that's always looking back at me in the mirror of my bathroom, mimicking everything I do. He just looks like a bitch. I've got to fight him. 8. I had to explain to a girl that penguins were not fish. I had to explain to another girl who I told this story to as to why the first girl was not correct. 9. A very famous lady once shopped at the Whole Foods market I manage. She wouldn't let my cashier's hand touch her food. The personal assistant proceeded to take my cashier's spot, insisting the person may get sick from worker contact. That's pretty dumb. 10. I was around 10 or 11, or whatever the normal age is when you know your own address. And I just made a new friend and she invited me over to her house to hang out. I planned on dropping by after taking my things home, so naturally I asked for her address. She grabbed a paper and pencil and started drawing 3 houses. She pointed to the middle house and said, "I live here." Never talked to her again. 11. A girl in my school was using a calculator on a test and typed the math problem wrong, and she then proceeded to write down syntax error as an answer. 12. I once watched a girl at the gas station pump her Ford Focus full of diesel because it was the lowest price at the time. 13. Watched a girl begin to microwave a spoon in order to more easily use it to scoop ice cream. 14. Let's all remember that to a certain degree, a person not knowing something doesn't mean they're dumb. What rules were put in place because of you? 1. No sign language during silent lunch punishment. My lunch period was so loud we got put on silent lunch for over a month straight. I decided the only clear solution was to teach my entire table sign language so we could still talk without getting in trouble. Apparently it was unfair to the kids who didn't know how to sign, so we had to stop. 2. A friend of mine in a military school found out the regulations never stated what color the bed sheets for a bed made for inspection had to be in. So this madman went and bought Power Ranger sheets and made the perfect regulation bed. I have never seen so many sergeants lose their minds but be unable to do anything since the regs were perfectly followed. Needless to say, the next year they were updated to state sheets must be plain white. 3. Back in the day, a radio station had a weekly trivia contest. The prize was a free pizza and movie rental. Somehow my mom figured out which book they were using for the trivia questions. She bought it and memorized all the answers. Each week we would call in immediately. Sometimes we were the first, but even if we weren't, it didn't matter because other people were usually just guessing. We won almost every time. Even though we changed up who would actually make the call, they eventually figured out we were all from the same household. So they made it a rule you couldn't win if your family had already won in the last month or whatever. Up till then, we enjoyed a lot of free pizzas. 4. My brother and I got into a cattle prod sword fight at a farm store. We ended up shocking the hell out of each other and now they are locked up. We were in our 30s. 5. I put a croissant in one of those hotel toasters. It soon became engulfed in flames and needed extinguishing. Next day at breakfast they made a sign that said, "If you'd like your croissant toasted, please ask a member of staff." 6. When I was walking home from school, I had to walk next to the road to get to my house. I decided to see if I could walk with my eyes closed. I didn't feel the transition from gravel to road, and the cars didn't honk at me, as they made a line, because they thought I was deaf. I heard a noise, looked back, and ran off the street into an orchard. 2 weeks later, they put up deaf child area signs on both sides of the road I live on. 7. In middle school I would use Sharpies to tattoo myself. Other kids thought it was cool, so I started charging $1 per drawing wherever they wanted. Principal found out, and after I wouldn't stop, she put a ban on Sharpies for the entire school. Even the teachers couldn't bring them in. I'm a tattoo artist now. 8. My younger brother was always late to school and was tardy. He figured out if he just skipped first period and went to second, he was counted as being in school and no late penalty because he was at second period on time. They changed this the following year. What's something you tried once and instantly knew it wasn't for you? 1. Sales. I don't like convincing people they need things. They can decide themselves. Don't want a phone? That's cool with me. My boss once questioned why I didn't try to push an iPhone 14 onto an old man who came in asking for advice on how to use his flip phone. Always loved that one. The only time I ever had good performance was when I got a lucky streak and when the customers came in wanting something already. 2. Living with roommates. Cannot stand it. I'm fine living with a partner, family, or by myself. But a stranger, no, thank you. 3. Manual labor. My grandfather did construction. One summer he hired me on one of the roofing teams. All it took was one summer running shingles up and down a ladder to convince me to stay in school. My dainty little IT hands, thank you, Pop. Well played. 4. I once tried to be a morning person. We both agreed it wasn't going to work out. 5. Waitressing. I knew instantly I was objectively terrible at it and I quit the same day I started. 6. I was shocked at how much I hate weighted blankets. People say so many good things about them. I put it over me, instant claustrophobia. I don't even have claustrophobia, except with weighted blankets. 7. Jogging. I'm in good shape, so it wasn't solely for health reasons. My dog, who I used to go on long walks with, passed mostly of old age. I wasn't ready to get another dog, so I decided that jogging would be a great hobby. Feeling connected to the neighborhood was a priority for me as I found myself staying at home a lot with no dog to walk. So I bought decent shoes, did a little research on methods and started jogging just a few blocks a day at first to get into the groove of my new hobby. I hated every second of it. There was nothing relaxing or enjoyable about it at all, and I got home every night feeling like I was foolishly making taking a walk punishing rather than fun. About 2 weeks in, I stumbled and fell, scraping my hands up a little. I walked home, put my new shoes in a closet and never jogged again. I adopted a new dog about a week later. 8. What grinds my gears is when I tried something once, instantly knew it's not for me, and later came back to it and now it's the best thing. 9. Horses. They're beautiful. I rode a very gentle one for a week, but after that week I knew it wasn't for me. They're scary. 10. I tried ballroom dancing once and realized my 2 left feet have a secret pact to avoid any rhythm. I'm better off sticking to dancing like nobody's watching, because nobody should be. Teachers of Reddit, what was the best excuse for being late that turned out to be true? 1. A kid's apartment burned down overnight. He was a little late, but still came. 2. Told me he got pulled over by the cops for wobbly driving on his bike and they thought he was drunk. Turned out he was just dodging all the slugs on the street. 3. In my hometown, if you walked into anywhere late and said the phrase, "Sorry, grain train," you were never challenged. It was extremely common for 50-plus carriage trains to run through the middle of town. 4. Not me but in my class. This was in college. Student turned in work late after not showing up for 2 classes. 2 classes amounted to a full week, so it was noticeable. Professor looked at him and said, "I hope somebody died for you to be this late." Student said, "Does my dad count?" Honestly, I've always heard you can hear a pin drop and never really thought anything of it. But yeah, you could hear a freaking pin cut through the air after that. 5. A kid missed my first period class one morning, but was in school later that day. When I asked him why he hadn't arrived in time for my course, he said his cow was birthing its calf that morning, so he'd picked being in the barn over English. Made sense to me. His essays weren't going to win any ribbons at the county fair, but his calf could. 6. We had an exam in my class and the teacher got a message from a student, saying that he was going to be late, because his car had a flat tire. The teacher didn't think it could be true, so as a joke the teacher asked him to bring the tire back. He brought the flat tire back in the middle of the exam. Needless to say, the professor didn't expect that. 7. I had a teacher who showed up about halfway through the class. Apparently her car had slid in an intense snowstorm the night before, and she had walked the last mile or so. 8. I had a 6-year-old turn up late to her lesson and blurt out, "Sorry I was late, I had to color in a bunny." Seems fair. 9. She had to take her sister to school and drive her mom to rehab. She was always late to class because her mom just wanted to sleep in. Problem was, if the mom was late or did not go, she would have violated her probation and gone to prison. I never marked her late. If she missed anything important, she could come in at lunch or after school to make it up. 10. My best friend and I used to roller skate to school, and one day we both forgot to put our shoes in our backpacks. So we skated to the vice principal's office and got to skip first period to go home for shoes. We stopped at Taco Bell on the way back for breakfast, because we figured we were already excused. What's that story you've never been able to tell? 1. In 6th grade one night I was like, I really don't feel like going to school tomorrow, so I looked up how to get a fever. I found a tutorial that said to take a bath at the hottest temperature your bathtub will go, and then stay up all night. I decided to try it and I started the water for a steaming hot bath. It stung to get in it, and I somehow survived it for 30 minutes. When I was getting out I felt dizzy and then, I fell on the floor and had a seizure. I woke up and saw the blinding ceiling lights of the bathroom, then I threw up in the toilet next to me and had a migraine for the night. And later found out I got first-degree burns. So long story short, don't do that. 2. In 7th grade, we had this paper we had to write. I forget what the subject was. I decided to procrastinate a lot. Then the day it was due rolled around, and I had nothing. We had to read our papers out loud in front of the class. I was totally prepared to take the 0, but then I realized he wasn't actually taking the papers we used. So I decided to go up to the front of the class with a blank sheet of paper, and improvise. I ended up getting an 80. 3. The time my mom needed to go back into the house to get a scarf. Because of this we were held back and missed a bus by 10 seconds. That bus then crashed into a bridge at very high speed because the bus driver had mental health problems. I will never complain about my mom going back to get a scarf in my life again. 4. Back when I was in high school, I wanted to approach this girl on a bus on my way to school. She was really hot and I knew I'd regret it if I didn't approach her. There was one big problem. There was a middle-aged lady seated next to her and I couldn't talk to this girl with the lady right next to her. I had to think of a quick way to get rid of the lady. I then woke up from my seat, slowly walked to the row they were seated and calmly asked the lady, "Excuse me ma'am, could you please let me sit next to my sister?" Turns out the lady was the girl's mom. 5. I found out when I was 28 that my dad's side of the family had been in the witness protection program my entire life, and that their names were not what I had been told. 6. I flew to Thailand on a whim with 2 coworkers in late 2001. We stayed at the Oriental, 5-star hotel, for a single night. Turned out the hotel was hosting the king's birthday party. We managed to secure tickets and tuxes due to the kindness of the staff. While the king wasn't in attendance, we got to meet the queen and one of the princesses. 7. At one point in my life, one of my best friends told me they were in love with me. Unfortunately, I did not feel the same way. Our friendship is still the same, but it's just a memory in the back of my head that I haven't disclosed with anyone.